you know, people who can make a brisket really well, they might be withholding something. So I'm going to figure out what that is. I'm going to use some common sense and try to make a really good brisket because I want to do it as well as other people can do it. So I have here some ribs and some briskets, and I just want to show you a couple of little tips as I do this. First of all, I keep the butcher paper because when you wrap it, I like to wrap it in butcher paper. And I don't have butcher paper and I don't store butcher paper as a minimalist kind of person. So one of my tips is to keep, when you unwrap your meat, keep the butcher paper so that, and then give it a rinse in your sink so that you can use that as your wrapping when you need to wrap it back up. So I'm going to do some ribs today as well because you can cook different types of meat on your smoker at the same time. They're typically going to smoke for the same temperature, which I think is as low as your smoker would go. So in my case, 215 degrees Fahrenheit. So I'm just unwrapping the brisket here over top of the grass because I'm fortunate enough to be able to do that. So this is not a huge brisket. I bought this brisket from a local farmer in Roseville, Ontario. I would say this brisket does not need to be trimmed. There's not a lot of fat on this brisket, so I'm just going to leave it as is. This is one side, this is the other side. And another thing I want to share with you is how I prepare meats for the smoker. And I tend to just use kitchen plates because kitchen plates are going to be the easiest thing to clean your raw meat off of. So I'm going to prepare these on the kitchen plates here. And let me just adjust you so that you can see what I'm doing down here. All right. I have a video already of how I prepare these ribs and how I'm going to do this brisket. I'm going to do it same sort of way. I'm going to take my, what I call the cheap yellow mustard. Cheap yellow mustard as a binder. I'm not even going to dry this brisket, but I'm going to put this binder on to both sides. And I'm going to use a lot more salt than I used last time. I'm just going to use salt and pepper, but a lot more salt than I used last time. Because I don't love how my brisket turned out last time. When I wrap this, I'm going to wrap this with a lot of flavors. I'm going to wrap it with onion, not garlic, and a lot of the herbs from my garden, and some lemon, some Worcestershire sauce, and I'm going to try to get some flavor in there. I'm going to smoke it for less time. I'm going to wrap it for more time and try to get this to be really soft and a succulent brisket. And stay with me the whole time. I will show you the final product. It's very hard to use this salt grinder. So I'm going to put the whole grains of salt on. No, they're a bit big actually. that's enough salt. Let's put it on our grill. It's all the way up to 157 right now, close enough to the 215 that I'm looking for. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this brisket on. When I put this brisket on, I have made sure that I have oiled my grill, and I'm gonna put it on fat side up. It does fill up. It's a bigger brisket than I thought because it was folded, so it does fill up the majority of my grill. I'm gonna hold off on the beef ribs. I think I'll stick them in the crock pot instead. It's a nice rainy day for a crock pot out here as well. And I do like doing that in my outdoor kitchen in the summertime. So we have put our brisket on the grill. Now we pretend that it's really, really hard to smoke something. And we spend a lot of time out here. And we play some music. And we get caught up on some chores. And we clean our outdoor kitchen. We hang out here and we pretend that it was very, very hard to make this for the next 4 hours, at which time I'll come back to you and we'll check on it and we'll wrap it up with lots and lots of flavor. All right, so I cooked this brisket for 3 hours and now it's time to wrap it. So I've taken it off this Traeger and I brought it over here, and what I did is I just made a mixture of the fresh herbs from my garden. So this is the fresh herbs that I have in my garden, plus salt and pepper. I used a favorite hot sauce of mine, which is Indonesian, the sambal sauce. I used this type of salt that's just a sea salt instead of what I usually use. So herbs from the garden, salt, pepper, hot sauce, lemon, and I only have dried rosemary, and I do feel like it needs rosemary, so I only have dried rosemary on there. And I mixed all of those together, and I want to add onion as well. So I put that on there as a mixture and rubbed it all on here, but I want onion as well. So to get extra flavorful onion, I'm using my barbecue here. And I just melted some tallow, which is fat, beef fat. I melted some tallow just in a little cast iron here to get myself really tasty, flavorful caramelized onions. I want to cook off all of these sugars on here to get a little bit more sugar in here. And I should have mentioned that also I did rub this with white sugar. And lots of people like using fancy things for sugars, and they'll say that they, made their meal with, I don't know, like lavender infused honeys and things like that. But I'll tell you, to make good, like junk food that your guests just kind of want to keep eating, you use white sugar. White sugar cooks down really, really nicely into just food you don't want to stop eating. I like mixing that white sugar with fat, a good saturated fat, and that's where this tallow comes in. Can't live without it. And that's how I make my junk food. Now, I want this brisket to be even more flavorful. So I stole some of this. What this is I made my own stock while I was smoking the brisket. So I put some beef ribs in some water with some vegetables and a bit of Worcestershire sauce, and I made my own stock. I poured that stock into here. So the liquid that I'm going to put on this brisket today, it's not going to be water. It's not going to be a step up, which is beer. It's not going to be white wine. It's going to be fresh beef stock. Now, fresh beef stock is a little bit meaty. So with my beef sauce, I have made it a little bit more flavorful with a bit more Worcestershire sauce, some lemon, and salt and pepper. So that's the liquid I'm going to be using today. So what I'm waiting for now is my caramelized onions. Big difference between onions and caramelized onions. It's very important to caramelize those sugars. I don't want to put plain onion on this. So the caramelized onions are almost ready. I don't like putting meat right up against foil unless I have to. So I did keep the butcher paper, and I washed the butcher paper that the brisket came in when I bought it from the farmer. I do like using foil though to keep all of the liquid in tight. So here we have our butcher paper up against the brisket, and then we'll have the foil just to keep that liquid in so that we're not making a mess on our barbecue, and so that it's really sitting in that liquid. So we're going to do sort of a double wrap there as our Traeger gets back up to temperature, and then I'm going to smoke this. I'm going to barbecue this because it doesn't really smoke at this point. I'm going to barbecue this for 2 more hours. Okay, I think our caramelized onions are just about ready. You gotta love the diversity of using a barbecue for just about everything. Look at these beautiful onions. Onions are so versatile as well, and really they play a part in really most of the meals we cook, right? And there's a fine line between nicely caramelized onions and burnt onions. And I find the only way I can really tell is not the color, it's the smell. And I'm really liking the smell that these ones are giving off right now. You know, back when I had COVID, I couldn't smell and I couldn't cook well. So I'm loving the smell of these right now. Slightly almost caramelized. I see them getting a little bit thicker there, and they smell really good. I could go a little bit deeper, but I'm not going to because they're going to sit on another barbecue for 2 more hours. So I'm going to turn this off at this point, and I'd say I'm very, very happy with these. Now I don't want to put something so hot right onto the meat. So I'm going to put these caramelized onions inside the beef broth that I've been making all day today to go with this meal. So here I have my beef broth that's cooled off, and I'm cooling off the onions in there, but I'm retaining all of the caramelized flavor from the sugars that are inside that onion. So I'm hoping for a pretty complicated flavor on this brisket. So again, in here I have beef broth that I have just made. You see bits of the vegetable from the beef broth. I'm just going to cook right on that brisket as well. I put lemon in here, salt and pepper. I have put sugar, hot sauce, herbs from the garden, lemon. What else did I put on here? Lemon, hot sauce, herbs from the garden, salt, pepper, and white sugar on here on both sides. And now I'm adding my liquid that has my caramelized onions and my flavors from the stock. So this is all going to sit on top, and those onions are going to caramelize even further while this brisket does its cooking. So the key is to keep all of this liquid in here. And I'm not doing too badly. There we go. So hopefully you can see that it's all sitting in there nice and wet. Now I need to retain that liquid by wrapping up in my butcher paper. But I do like to do a double wrap for those liquids that are coming through that butcher paper. So here we go, a double wrap in foil. And just to be extra certain, I'm going to put 1 more layer of foil because this is a pretty special brisket to me. Doesn't matter what what side is going up on your foil. Sometimes that matters for some things. That matters for the top of a lasagna, for example, but it doesn't matter. I'm actually going to be brave and flip it. And then I'm going to be brave and cook it like this. Now that's a good sopping wet brisket that has so many flavors in it. I think it'll be pretty yummy. Back onto the pellet grill for 2 hours. I'll see you in 2 hours. It's been 2 more hours, so it's time to take our brisket off the grill. And we'll unwrap our nice juicy brisket. It's quite hot. And let's bring it down here onto wood. Whenever you're working with meat, it really should sit on wood, not any other surface, not plastic or stoneware or plates or anything. All right, so what I was going for was juicy. And I have here a very nice, juicy brisket. Now, what I don't like about this brisket is it's not crispy. This juice is beautiful, and I'm not going to lose this juice from the brisket. I'm going to put it in my ribs. So here's my rib stock, my ribs that have made the rib stock for me, that made this juice in the first place. And now this smoked. All of these flavors we have with the rosemary and the lemon, the fresh herbs from the garden, the hot sauce, the salt and pepper, Worcestershire soy sauce, everything. It's going to go back onto those ribs because those ribs are just going to get some barbecue sauce and they're going to get barbecued. Now for this puppy, it's time to crisp it up. So that's why we do the 3, 2, 1 rule for brisket is that we do it 3 hours smoking, 2 hours wrapped, and 1 hour to crisp it back up again. This time we're going to put it to a higher heat, so I'm going to put this up to 350 or 400. Haven't quite decided yet, but I need to get this all blackened and make the crust on it now. And it's a nice, juicy, beautifully moist brisket at this point, but I don't have what they call the bark on it. So let's get the bark on it. This time when I put it on the smoker, I'm going to put it fat side down. Okay. I'm going to put that up to 350 right now. So my smoker's on at 350. I'm going to smoke this for 1 hour, but I am going to check on it in between to make sure that it's getting its nice bark, and I'll probably flip it as well. So there we go, and the brisket should be ready in about an hour. We'll see how that goes. Well, the sun has gone down on me again here in my outdoor kitchen, but this is where I love to be. It's Sunday evening. It's the middle of the summer here in Ontario, and it's time to check the brisket that we've been working on all day. Ready for the big reveal, and we are hoping that it has the bark that we're looking for. We know that it has the nice soft texture inside. We know that texture is made of so many flavors that go nicely together. We know it's going to taste good, but does it have the bark that we're looking for? Let's turn on the lights here and investigate and see if we can tap on this brisket and it has the nice bark that kept it tender. Come with me. And that looks pretty good to me. Let's tap on it. And that is what we're looking for in a brisket. We're going to have some nice burnt ends there to cut off, some nice burnt ends that are going to be so tasty. And we have, when I press on this, it's nice and soft. I see, watch the tender juice come out of there. Juice is coming out. Look at this side. You see a crack here. You can hear this bark. And I think it is absolutely a beautiful thing. So there you have it. If you want to put some effort into making a nice brisket on your Traeger grill, 3 hours of smoking, wrap it up with all the flavor combinations that we did there, even making your own beef stock, and then 1 more hour on that grill to set that bark, and I think we have a winning combination here. You enjoy, and I'll see you another night in my kitchen.